special episode, we're joined again by the overthrown 22nd Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. Since we last spoke to him on the show, he's been arrested and released on bail. His arrest was deemed unlawful by the Pakistan Supreme Court, and protests following his arrest led to several deaths and hundreds being detained. Now, under de facto house arrest, he's still awaiting the outcome of scores of legal cases brought against him. Former Prime Minister and chair of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, Imran Khan, joins me now from Lahore, capital of Punjab province in Pakistan. Thank you so much, former Prime Minister, for coming back on the show. Before we get back to the state of play and what's been happening since you were last on, when we were terrified there was going to be imminent assassination, I better just ask you, because here in the UAE, I mean, the UAE Minister of Economy has gone to St. Petersburg to the International Economic Forum there. People are talking about Russia all over the global south. I noticed you said, is this a solution, is this a reason for toppling my regime, when talking about the Russian crude oil that arrived in Karachi over the past few days? What did you mean by that?
Well, you know, one of the reasons we felt that General Bajwa, who was then the army chief, one of the reasons was, a pretext used was that I was getting too close to Russia, and that, you know, we had struck a deal to get cheaper oil and cheaper wheat on my Russian trip. But I think that was just a pretext, because the conspiracy was basically that General Bajwa wanted to have an extension, and he had already worked out with who's the current Prime Minister, that they had worked out that if my government was removed and his government came in, this current government, then General Bajwa would get an extension. This was behind the real reason behind the conspiracy to remove me.
Because, you know, the Pakistani government says, no, we sent the petroleum minister Musaddiq Malik in December to Moscow. Russia rejected his 30 to 40% discount on the crude. It's the present government of Shahbaz Sharif who's doing the deals.
This is not true. I had a long meeting, you know, with President Putin. It was about bilateral issues. One of the things I talked about was that because of the tension, then it wasn't, well, I think that morning, and unfortunately, Russians moved into Ukraine. But until then, the tension had raised the prices of oil internationally, and that affected countries like us, the developing world. It affected enormously because the petroleum imports are such a large part of our imports that it upsets our balance of payments. So therefore, it causes huge inflation in our countries, which pushes people below the poverty line. So when I spoke to President Putin, he then sent his energy minister to talk to our energy minister to strike out a deal to have discounted oil. But the moment we got back, a few days later, there was a vote of no confidence, and really the whole thing went out of the window. We were, in a couple of weeks, our government was removed.
You're not going to tell us the discount, because I know that the 40% figure, which I think is being bandied around Pakistan, has been rejected by the Russians.
No, well, I didn't say, India got apparently 40% discount, but I mean, we just spoke about a discount. That was, things were going to move forward from then onwards. But the moment we came back, the no confidence portion came, and then everything went on hold, because then it was a question of the government surviving.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk a little bit last time about the U.S. role in your being deposed as Prime Minister. I think maybe our audience wants to know that I didn't realize. So on the 20th of June 2021, you made a statement saying Pakistan will not allow the CIA or U.S. Special Forces to base themselves inside this country ever again, verbatim. And what, in 10 months later, you were out. Are these two events connected?
Look, you know, there's a history to that. Pakistan participated in the U.S. war on terror, which is after 9/11. And in that war, 80,000 Pakistanis died. And not just that, I mean, over $100 billion lost to the economy, because Pakistan became the epicenter of terror. We had bombs going all over the place. We had suicide attacks. But the state was trying to save itself. So my point was that Pakistan should not get involved in conflicts of other countries. My point is that the top priority of a Pakistani leader, prime minister, should be to protect its vulnerable people. And we have 100 million people who are vulnerable. 50 below the poverty line, 50 just above it. So if you are involved in a conflict, how can you protect the interest of your own people? And always the conflict causes poverty. And in our case, in the war on terror for 15 years, which Pakistan participated, I mean, no investor would come to Pakistan.
But clearly the CIA are working with the ISI now, are they? Or aren't they? Because ever since the fall of Kabul and the absurd evacuation, the lethal evacuation of the United States, where's the Islamist terrorism gone in Pakistan, let alone across the Middle East? It all seems to have, and peace is breaking out, of course, in this region. Why is it, since the United States are focused on Ukraine, it's all disappeared, arguably? There is still some terrorism in Pakistan, of course.
No, well, actually, there's very little terrorism in Pakistan. We had a bit of terrorism when the Pakistani Taliban who were in Afghanistan, after the fall of Kabul, the Afghan government made them relocate back to Pakistan. So there is a bit of terrorism. I mean, I can't say there is zero terrorism, but that's because the government has taken the eye off the ball. I mean, if we were in government, we would have rehabilitated them. We would have spent time and money to make sure that they got rehabilitated back into society.
Do you think it's connected, the US focus on Kiev and the sudden decline in so-called Islamist terrorism?
Well, you know, the war on terrorism created terrorists. I mean, in Pakistan, I mean, look, I have made statements and interviews over the 15 years when we were participated in this war on terror. I kept saying that the more actions you take against the militants, more collateral damage, because, you know, there was no army they were fighting. These were civilians. So, for instance, there were 450 drone attacks in Pakistan. Now, these drone attacks, it's the only time a country has been bombed by its own ally. But the drone attacks, remember, they were in villages, in our what I call the tribal areas adjacent to Afghanistan. And so when a bomb explodes in a village, there's a lot of collateral damage. And collateral damage created militants. I have no doubt that even in Afghanistan, the Afghan Taliban gained from collateral damage caused by night raids and drone attacks in Afghanistan. Same happened in Pakistan's tribal area. The more the drone attacks, the more collateral damage, the more militants. So, but in difference was in Pakistan, they avenged themselves against Pakistan's security forces. So both sides, Pakistanis were dying.
Well, so at least Pakistani security forces aren't bearing as much of the brunt of this type of terror nowadays. What's been happening to you? Because we thought that there was an imminent prospect of your assassination. You've been shot, you're injured, I don't know how you're healing, and now you were detained, and can you leave your house right now?
Well, look, since we last spoke, I had one assassination attempt. And then since we last spoke after that, on the 18th of March, I had another assassination attempt. And then there was another one a few days later, which I preempted because I was informed beforehand that there was going to be a false flag operation where there were people from, they had people inducted within my own party members, and they would have shot some policemen, and then the police would have come to kill me. And why is my life in danger? Because according to all opinion polls, we will sweep the elections. So this is the election year.
Well, you know that Mariam Sharif, the daughter of the Panama Papers Prime Minister, arguably, Nawaz Sharif, who is protected in London, I don't know, British authorities are protecting him. Mariam claimed your party could fit into one rickshaw.
Well, if that was the case, then they shouldn't be worried about elections. Already the government, her government, the Supreme Court had ordered elections according to the Constitution on the 15th of May of Punjab, the biggest province, 60% of Pakistan. The government refused. Out of 37 by-elections, PTI, my party, has swept 30 of them. So if the party fits in a small place, why are they so scared of elections?
Yeah, but on the other hand, you did get bail, and surely Shahbaz Sharif is correct in that it's only the present Pakistani government that changed the bail remand period from 90 days, which it was under your government, to 15 days, which is why you're free to talk to me right now.
No, that's not true. I wasn't on remand. The Supreme Court ruled that my arrest was unlawful. That's why I got out.
I think what the Prime Minister was getting at was things were pretty tough under your Prime Ministership in Pakistan for journalists, for the media, for the economy, actually.
It is the biggest nonsense. You know, first of all, economy. All you have to do is look at the economic survey of Pakistan published by this government. Our economy was booming a year ago. It was growing at 6%, and it is in the economic survey of Pakistan. And our industry was growing, our agriculture in
You borrowed from the IMF.
Afshin, you must understand. 17 years, the government had the best economic performance. Plus, the handling of COVID, we were the top 3 countries which handled COVID-19 the best. So that's nonsense. And secondly, how can anyone compare what happened in my 3.5 years to virtually a martial law in Pakistan right now? This complete media, my name is not allowed to be uttered on media. Forget about appearance. The judiciary passes a verdict, the government doesn't listen to it. We now are becoming a banana republic. You can't even compare what happened between